Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brewing with Jim. This is the show where we take your questions and we throw them at Mr. Jim Brewington.
Here I am. Throw at is good.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. It's good to be with you again.
Yes, tremendous. Let's just hop right into our question of the week.
Okay.
This question actually comes from a listener,
Okay.
as most of our questions do.
Mm-hmm.
The question is the question is asked in a way that you explicitly don't like to be asked, which is to use a superlative. The question itself had best in it. It says, what is the best? So we can reconfigure the question itself.
Okay. Well, let me interrupt you for just a second. The reason I don't like superlative, the favorite question, what's your favorite restaurant? Then I have to think of every restaurant I've ever been to and rank them.
Sure.
And something has to be on top. It's
a lot
much
of work.
easier to ask the question, what's a restaurant that you like to go to?
How many restaurants have you been to? How many restaurants would you have had to
I
rank?
have that in my head. I know exactly how many I've ever been.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? I don't know. Well, I was in the restaurant business for 27 years.
You were?
I was.
What?
And yes. And I have been to many. This is off topic.
How do you have time? Like, you were a pastor for how many years?
Well, I've been a pastor, I don't know. I was ordained in 1986, in March of 86. But I pastored long before that. Pastoring is a state of being. So if you are one, you are one. You know?
Must have overlapped a lot of these jobs.
They
and
did.
Stuff.
Oh, thank you.
You've been teaching for decades, pastoring for decades, restaurant for decades.
Joseph, get back to it.
Okay.
What?
I'm not trying to highlight how old you are. I'm trying to say, no.
Well, heaven forbid we would have an episode where you didn't mention my age. There's a reason.
I think that's
the reason our picture isn't on the logo.
I don't want to listen to that thing.
Yeah.
All right. So our question originally came in with a superlative in it. So I'll ask you the original question, and I'll just let you reconfigure it on the fly.
I'm ready.
The question was, what is the best piece of advice that you have ever received, and how did it impact you? And then the inverse of that being, what is the best advice you have ever given to someone else, and how are you aware that it impacted them?
Well, because for this segment of the episodes, you and I discuss what the question is going to be beforehand. And I like that. It gives me a week or so to walk around thinking about it.
Yes.
Here I am with this. So I've got to rank all the pieces of advice. I can't even remember all the advice that I've received. I have people surrounding me from the time I was probably an infant, my parents and grandparents and others, always giving advice. But I can remember, of course, some very simple practical things that people have given to me. My dad told me, don't ever quit your job before you have the next one, before you have another job. Now, sometimes people don't have a choice.
Sure.
Just, I'm out of my job, I'm out of work, I was laid off. But don't quit your job before you have another one. It's easier to find a job if you have one.
Yeah.
Ironically.
It's true.
Look left before you step off the curb.
Yeah.
This is a good. Unless you're in London. And when
That's true.
Yes. Or some of the Asian countries, and I have been to those places, and I'm still looking left before I step off the curb. I go, wait, this isn't quite right. But that's pretty good advice.
That's very good advice.
My dad told me that when he was teaching me to shower, we had a shower in the basement, and you get up past what age? I don't know, 3, 4, and you're through with the bathtub.
Sure.
So we went down, and he would teach me to shower and to wash my hair. And he said, now when you do this, put your head down, rinse the water off, the soap off, but close your eyes and breathe through your mouth.
Yep.
That was great advice. I still
Groundbreaking.
do that. I still do that.
Yes.
I mentioned that to Debbie, my wife, this week, and she said, why breathe through your mouth? And I said, you don't breathe through your mouth when you're rinsing the soap out of your hair? No, I breathe through my nose. Why would it come? So I don't know. Maybe I have not really witnessed a lot of people shower. I've been in enough locker rooms, but It's not something that I really focused, and so
you're not knocking on each shower door like, hey, are you breathing through your mouth?
Oh, that's right. I was told when I didn't need to be told, when it didn't apply to me, that if you're pudgy, don't wear horizontal stripes, and now I'm a little pudgy. I wouldn't consider myself fat. Don't say anything. I wouldn't consider myself fat, but I could afford to lose a few pounds. I don't wear horizontal stripes. And then I have heard from 2 separate independent sources, oh, that's not true anymore. Horizontal stripes don't make you look larger. And we can not discuss this much anymore. I was driving in a blizzard with my son, and he was old enough to drive at the time we were going through New Mexico, and there was a blizzard there. And he was a fairly new driver, but maybe 3 years or 4 years, and from Southern California.
Yeah.
What do you know about blizzards? Nothing. And the windshield got dirty because we were behind a truck. He turns on the windshield washer. I said, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
And, of course, the water freezes instantly on the windshield. You can't see anything.
That's right.
So I said, lower the window, stick your head out, pull over, and we're going to stop.
Yeah.
So there's advice.
Yeah.
I guess that was advice I had given him, but it was certainly something that I learned from somebody else. Take a day off every week. Now, that is a piece of advice I learned when I was very young in church. God calls it Sabbath.
Yes.
But take a day off every week. I ignored it. And I ignored it up until I was 45, 50 years old, because I came from a part of the country where the nicest thing you could say to somebody is, he's a hard worker.
Yep.
Say about somebody, he's a hard worker. Nobody ever says you're a good rester.
Yeah.
And I was a hard worker. I've always been a hard worker. But there was a time in my ministry when I was thinking about taking a day off. And by the way, it's right up there on the tablets next to do not murder.
That's right.
So take a day off, and I started doing it, and I still do it. And the blessings are unbelievable.
Yeah.
They are believable. Coming from God, I'm not pleasing him, and therefore he is gracious to me.
Yeah.
I am just taking his advice. It's a command, really.
Yeah.
And that has been one of the most beneficial changes in my life. Now, in Southern California, no, you don't take a day off.
Sure.
What about the single mother who has to work and then take care of the kids? Day off. I don't know the logistical answers to all these. Work it out. We have service hours for students in high school where they're supposed to do something. Go take care of the kids one day and let mom go to the movies.
Sure.
And take a day without having to to be so obligated to do all of these things. I have another piece of advice that I have received, that is, don't follow your dream. Now, that's counterintuitive.
Interesting.
But don't follow your dream, follow your abilities.
Yeah.
And then make a dream out of what God has given to you.
Interesting.
And I don't want to say any more about that.
That's profound.
Because that's
like
enough
that.
right there.
Yeah.
We'll pause. Now, what the other part of your question was?
Advice that you have given to others that you know has been impactful, or that they've let you know has been impactful.
They've let me know. I taught a Bible class in a high school, not this one, but another one, for 1 year. And at the end of the year, a student who had been somewhat participatory in class came up to me and he said, "You said something this year that changed my life." And I said, "Really? Well, have a nice day." No, I said, "Really? What was it?" And he said, "You said that anger is a choice response." And his default reaction to frustration and to insult and other things that cause anger was to be angry and to ticked and really to, "You are making me mad." I think the anger itself may not be a choice, but the manifestation of the anger is a choice.
Yep.
The Bible says, be angry, but sin not.
Yeah.
And be angry for the right reasons. If it's something that would make God angry, then it makes you angry. Righteous anger. That was advice that I didn't know I had given. It was a throwaway line, and it changed.
You didn't remember even at the time
I didn't.
saying that.
I didn't. Another one is, well, you know what? When I anticipated this question, I couldn't think of anything.
Sure.
And so I have proteges around the country. I texted about 4 of them, and I said, have I ever said anything to you that was positively affecting your life?
Yeah.
And
they all said no.
They all said,
no.
They all said, I can't think of anything. No, they all said, there are so many, I don't know how to. I said, just text me a couple because I want to talk about this. I wasn't aware that the way we live, Joseph, you and I live, people watch.
Oh, yeah.
And people see. And our responses and our lifestyle and our speech can affect somebody's life. Those things do affect people's life. Another one that someone told me is when I told them don't live for anyone, to please anyone. Don't live to please anyone.
Yep.
In high school, that's why people live. Peer pressure is strong.
Yep.
And it's taken me a long time to learn that I can't live to please someone else. If we live to please someone else, we become that person's prisoner, that person's captive.
Yeah.
And we are responding in 2 or 3 directions at once. If there are 2 or 3 people around, being a pastor, you're going. All pastors are criticized. Every pastor preaches a sermon, and then the people go home and have him for chicken dinner, and sit around and talk about what was wrong and what was.
Sure.
The idea of pleasing someone is not a good idea, but yet we need to please our bosses. Mm-hmm. We need to do what we're told. Do we need to please God? Not really. He is gracious enough, and his love overwhelms our attempts to impress him. We're not going to impress him by our behavior. Mm-hmm. The most salient way to preach the gospel, this is another one that came back to me, and I think salient's not the right word here, although that was the word that was given to me. Mm-hmm. The most salient way to preach the gospel is a loving relationship over a long period of time.
Oh, it's
and
beautiful.
I told that to somebody once.
Yeah.
And they told me that changed their life.
Yes.
Another one is don't overthink it. Don't go home and just dwell on, I said good morning to her and she didn't say anything back.
Yeah.
And you go home and you process and you process. In counseling and in therapy, that's called perseveration. But and it's a symptom for something's wrong here.
Sure.
But don't overthink it. Don't be oversensitive. Next one, that more than 5, 6, 7 people have told me, when somebody asks me if I will mentor them, I will say, I don't know. Let's have a definition lunch, and you let me know what that means to you, and I'll see if I fit it. And we'll put some boundaries on this, and I want to hear what you have to say about what you're expecting. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of that, if we decide to do this relationship, to have this relationship, I will make a decision that I'm going to love them. And then I will say to them, I have decided to love you. Mm-hmm. And I have to have decided it.
Yes.
But when I have, and I state that, many have told me that is something that no one has ever said to me before, and it affected me spiritually, emotionally, relationally. I have decided to love you.
Wow.
Another thing I must have told somebody is we are not called to be the morality police. Mm-hmm. For a long time in my pastorate ministry, I thought that part of my job was to wag my finger in people's faces and say, you shouldn't be doing this, and you shouldn't be doing this, and you should be doing that. I've quit that. I've stopped that. There are pastors who do that. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't want to get into all that right now, but I don't do it.
Sure.
I am not the morality police. My job is to accept you and to love you and to help you grow and so forth. That was another one. One thing I said that I have told people is learn to waste time for the glory of God.
Huh.
And that has to do with Sabbath too.
Sure.
But
what's that mean? Yeah.
It means don't stay so busy all the time that you can't spend time to just rest and to just get your mind off of everybody's problems that have been dealt to you, and just waste time for the glory. I read waste time novels. I have other books that I read too, but they're all kind of heavy. And I read something that's an escape novel just to waste time for the glory of God. And it is for the glory of God to do that. There was something that, he said, make me lie down in green pastures. Mm-hmm. You can't lie down in green pastures if you're so busy running around. There are some people who are so busy doing God's work that they don't have time to spend time with Jesus. Mm-hmm. They're too busy doing that. That's off base to do that. One of the pieces of information that I do give to people, and I can't remember if we've said this on another podcast, but I am the most accomplished, finest person I know in one area, and that is I keep confidences. I do not tell. What somebody tells me stays with me.
Yep.
It doesn't go to my wife. It doesn't become a teaching example. It doesn't become an illustration in a sermon. When somebody tells me something, it stays with me.
Yep.
I don't even tell people I talked to that person. Now, we're covered, we who are ordained are covered by what's called the clergy penitent privilege. Even the courts can't make us talk when we are receiving information that people tell us. But another person's story is theirs to tell or not tell.
Sure.
It's not mine. And I have said that to people, and they said, I have never looked at it that way. Christians will sometimes get together and we need to pray for this person, and let me tell you what's going on in their life. And that's just gossip.
That's messy.
Yeah, and gossip is destructive. The Greek word for gossip is the same as the Spanish word for devil, diabolos. And that is divider of people. That's what gossip does. Don't do it. Don't do it. When people, during this definition lunch I talked about when deciding to mentor somebody.
Yes.
I asked them, how long do you want this relationship to go on? And, a year at least. I'd like for it a year. I go, no, this is a lifelong decision. We're going to go on until one of us departs. And that is, the reason for that is that there's nowhere in God's word that we're supposed to set up a time limit to stop loving somebody.
Sure.
It's like marriage.
Yeah.
It's
no
like
expiration date.
There's no expiration date on that at all. And I have one more, and I'll give it to you. Guy wrote to me, one of my proteges wrote to me, and he said, struggling to forgive someone. I know I should forgive, but I can't. And I answered him by saying, Jesus has forgiven you for so much. I don't even know what it is.
Sure.
But Jesus has forgiven you for so much. How dare you withhold forgiveness from somebody else?
Yeah.
And he said, I have never thought about that before.
Yes.
I have to forgive somebody else. The forgiving of somebody else is not for their sake. It's if I forgive you, it's for mine.
Right.
Because then I don't have to walk around with the unforgiveness and the bitterness that comes.
It's a relinquishing of anger and grudges, whatever you want to call it.
It could be someone, we're forgiving somebody who died. Well, it doesn't do them any good. It does me the good to forgive them. And so there are a few that I have said to people.
It's fantastic.
It's really? Thank you. That's encouraging.
This is something like, no, this is the point of this question, right? Is we have now captured in audio forever. No pressure.
Oops.
Probably close to 10 or 15 just little golden nuggets of wisdom.
Gems for Jim.
Gems for
Jim coming into me. Gems from Jim.
Gems from Jim.
Yeah, okay.
I love that.
Do you?
That could be its own podcast feed, I'm thinking. I'm just kidding.
Let's not.
That's not.
Most of the wisdom, by the way, that I have given to other people, I got from a guy who is the second wisest person to have ever lived. His name was Solomon. Mm-hmm. And if you want wisdom, go to Proverbs.
There you go.
He sketched that book out. He wrote that book. There is enormous wisdom in there. Should I co-sign for somebody when they're buying a car? That's in Proverbs.
It's literally in Proverbs.
It's in Proverbs. And
yes.
I'm not taking credit for the wisdom.
Of course, yeah.
The application of some of that, which becomes wisdom too, is because I've been on the planet for a while.
Yeah.
And I have just experienced all of these things. So
yeah.
It's not really gems from Jim. It's
Sure.
gems from Jesus.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that so much of, what we call gems and golden nuggets of wisdom and these pieces of advice, I think for the most part, correct me if I'm wrong, you are not the first human being to have discovered any of those.
You're not wrong.
And that's kind of a beautiful thing in a way, that there is a rediscovery every person makes on maybe the same bits of wisdom all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are some people who never discover these things.
Sure.
Who never discover wisdom.
Yeah. Either because it never gets shared with them, or it gets shared with them and they're not receptive.
Well, that's it.
There's probably other reasons.
But it comes from a relationship with God and with His Word. Knowing God is the beginning of wisdom. Mm-hmm. That's a little piece of wisdom that's in there.
Yes,
in the book.
Is.
So yeah,
it is. That's fantastic.
Okay. Well, this was kind of fun.
That was a great question. That was a great conversation.
It was a good question. I wonder if we addressed the questioner's curiosities.
I hope so. We gave him kind of a shotgun approach of here's like 20 things. Hopefully something in there is impactful for anybody listening.
I hope
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Let's jump to our next question. There's
always some trepidation in me here.
I love it. This is our second segment. This is the part of the show where we blindside Jim. This is a question that may or may not come from an audience member, but it's something to just kind of...
it comes from someone.
It comes from someone. Usually it's me.
Yeah,
I must admit.
Okay.
This is another one that comes from me. And the point of this question is to liven the discussion with something totally off the wall, something fun, something a bit random, a bit more personal, and a lot lower stakes usually than our first question, which usually has some deep implications here or there. The question for today is, what kind of music do you listen to? And throughout your life, how has that changed? Has your musical tastes changed throughout the course of your life?
Well, the wheels on the bus go round and round. That was early in life.
A forever classic.
Yeah, it was. I grew up in West Texas, and
they have some music there.
Yeah, it's all country.
Yeah,
it's all country, but it isn't. There are all genres there too. Sure. Just nobody listens to them.
Yeah,
but it's all country. And when I was at Texas Tech, I learned popular music in the 60s.
Sure.
That was 1960s, not 1860s. And there was and the radio,
Civil War drums,
and enough. And the radio in the car was always on, and pop radio stations, and I could lip sync them all, and we all enjoyed that kind of stuff. Elvis Presley.
Sure.
I saw his first performance on Ed Sullivan's show.
Wow.
And that became radically criticized because he was moving his hips when he was singing. And then the Beatles came out, and I was 16 years old, and they had hair that covered their ears, and so that was horrible.
Scandal.
And all the parents were up in arms with what is it, these kids? What's become of them? What will become of them?
Sure.
But predominantly, it was country music, and I was too sophisticated to listen to country music, I thought. I had a very close friend in college, and he was a music major, and his principal instrument was a liturgical organ. He played organs in churches.
Oh,
and he taught me pipe organs. We went to Lawrence, Kansas, and the pipe organ factory there.
Oh.
We traveled by car, and I was crawling in and out of great chambers and swell chambers, adjusting pipes while he was tuning.
Wow.
Well, all that was classical. It was liturgical music. It was, I don't know. It was all that genre, whatever the name of it is. And he said, and others in that appreciative group of people, don't ever listen to country music. That stuff is horrible. And so I didn't. Although I found part of it attractive.
Sure.
But I was kind of closeted, and I would listen a little bit, in the car when nobody was there.
It was a guilty pleasure.
And then I guess it was guilty, but I was guilty. And I listened to it. And then I appreciated big band music for a while, and that didn't last too long. And now, just fast forward decades, I have given myself permission to like country music, and I listen to country music.
Sure.
I have given and I had to, when I was in college, to try to keep up with my friendship, I took music appreciation courses, and I learned to like classical music. Now I have a nephew who is in high school, and he plays several instruments, and his favorite kind of music is classical music, and he is in orchestras. And I have a niece who wrote a symphony, and it was performed in New York. And so I allow myself to enjoy classical music and country music, and I think probably the music that I spend most time listening to is jazz. Jazz, I have studied jazz, I have listened to jazz. Some people say, "Oh, that's the music that doesn't go anywhere." Well, it's kind of
the point.
Kind of the point.
That's okay.
Yeah, I listen to jazz. There are people who say that the American society, the American culture, has contributed 3 huge contributions to the world in culture. One is the Constitution of the United States. One is baseball, and one is jazz.
Wow.
Jazz. So there's my answer, I guess.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I do not like, well, that wasn't part of the question.
No,
but I don't spend any time listening to heavy metal, rap. I don't spend any time with that. As an interpreter, I have had to interpret some rap songs. That's a challenge. You almost get lift off when you're doing that. But jazz and classical, oh my goodness. There's my answer to that question. Thanks for the blind side, I guess.
Absolutely. All right.
I'm done.
You're good. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Brewing with Jim. As always, we want to hear from you. Please send us your responses, your comments, and especially your questions to brewingwithjim@gmail.com. That email address is always open. We check that, and we get notifications if someone pings that. So please let us know.
Yes.
Thank you very much again for listening, and have a great week.
Talk to you next time.
The topics that are covered and the answers that are offered during episodes of Brewing with Jim are designed to mine the wisdom attained from a life of pastoral ministry and care. They do not constitute professional or clinical training or expertise in the areas of counseling or mental health. CVCS and its podcast network want to provide a platform for the discipleship of our community. Brewing with Jim is our attempt to foster that environment in a format that is accessible for everyone to participate in. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed during the show are the speaker's own, and they may or may not represent the views, thoughts, or opinions of Capistrano Valley Christian Schools or its faculty. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. This episode has been a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools Podcast Network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK through 12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. Be sure to check out, subscribe to, and leave a review of this show and the other shows on our network on your podcast player of choice. Doing so supports the school community in a multitude of ways. For more information about the CVCS Podcast Network or any of our other shows, check out cvcs.org or email podcasts@cvcs.org. On behalf of the whole network, this is Mr. Jasper saying thank you again for listening and stay tuned for more.